All right, we are live. I'm going to wait just a few seconds while StreamYard and YouTube decide to talk to each other. And there we go. Turning off volumes, making sure everybody's working. All right, everything looks like it's good. So, welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Ed Rabyd, your host, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. And welcome to the Deconversion Hangout, a support live stream for those of you deconverting or those that want information about deconversion as a precautionary measure against drive-by theists, although it doesn't seem to bother them too much to do this, especially if they're committed to being annoying. There's a 20-minute wait period after you become a subscriber in order to comment. So this takes the risk of dropping down, the amount of people watching, I suppose, but also that's kind of the purpose of this. Is I do my midweek streams for different purposes. So, all right, but let's take a look at who's here. Fred made it early. Cranky Elder God arrived. Lisa is here. I think that's yes, and please remember to rub that like button. Thank you very much. I don't know. It was last stream was really good for me on an emotional level because I was helping somebody out get through their process. Triple E has been a member and a subscriber for a while, but he's going through the process of deconverting and still kind of holding on to the idea of a God and things like that, but has discarded Christianity pretty much. And taking the time to help him was really good for me on a personal level. So, but it's kind of why I do this. Just wish I saw more of that, but it was a good stream last time for that. That purpose. It was actually very, very good. So thanks to him, and thanks to the people that were there lending a hand. One of the big issues in deconversion is the effect that your religion has on how you deal with people. Christianity is one of the worst, in my opinion, because of the whole Christian forgiveness thing, because it's you have to forgive or God won't forgive you kind of thing. And so that just sets itself up for a whole bunch of abuse and being very passive, when people do shitty things to you. I have to review here. If you're at work and somebody starts, doing their religious, evangelistic, fundamentalist stuff towards you, you have every right to go get an attorney. HR will kind of rub it over. Somebody mentioned that, but human resources departments have a tendency to just kind of like, like they just have a tendency to not want to deal with the issue because it just means they have to do their job. But if you like go, tell them, hey, that's religious bullying. You need to stop it off and leave it away from work. It's one of those attitudinal things, and I'm trying to, me and Earl are trying to tell Triple E, hey man, you gotta like stand up for yourself. So there's that kind of awesomeness to it in the sense that you have to start learning to value yourself enough to stand up for yourself. So, and trying to teach somebody how to do that is always beneficial. So thanks. You good to see you, Ann. We're starting to pick up a little bit of people. My streams have a tendency to take 5-10 minutes before people show up. So I kind of bullshit my way through the first 10 minutes. So, hey, Wolf. But yeah, that's one of the deconversion issues that I constantly deal with, is how my personality was shaped by my religion. So I tend to let a lot of things go. I tend to let people just kind of do, not stand up for myself. One of the things that I had to learn, and I'm still learning it, is when I do something that's good, to learn to take credit for it. So, it's like you're always giving glory to God, and you're always giving your money to the church, and you're always giving this, and it's like, no, this is my achievement. I think I'll hold on to this. It's like it's not a. It's really hard sometimes to, after being in the faith so long, where people have told you, well, that's, you did all that because God let you, and it's like, no, I don't think so. Hey, Stacy. But yeah, it's a big issue for a lot of people, because I know for me, it's still an issue, because I have to spend a lot of time. There's a lot of self-doubt still in my life. So, well, they've always been that. Christian nationalism has always been tinfoil hat. So, I mean, the Christian God, I don't know. If you're a truly rational person and you look at Christianity, I think you would discard it pretty quickly. So, yes. And this, see, Lisa, I go a little further, because I asked the question, what does that do to the human mind over time? Because the message of the gospel is Jesus paid it all, and all to him I owe. and that sets up a real interesting mindset, doesn't it? Because now I owe God. We did this last Saturday where, um, we talked about the preacher that asked for 40K, and it's like, it's that mindset that they want you to be in, because Jesus has forgiven your sins, and now you owe him everything else. And including, you have to constantly be asking forgiveness, because obviously he doesn't solve the sin problem. Okay, because you can still go out and sin. So it's this constant, continual wash yourself from your sins in Jesus's blood, rinse and repeat, that keeps you coming back. And it's a great con, by the way. It's a wonderful con to keep coming back, but it doesn't make sense to me anymore. And I think once you get out, it's like, how the hell did I believe that? And for me, it was like I grew up in it, and other people, it's like, I don't know why I accepted this in the first place as an adult. So, well, yes, that's the real problem, because you start thinking about these, Fred, and thinking is a very bad thing to do when you're a religious person, because if you start thinking about your beliefs, it's like, but there never would have been sin in the first place if God hadn't created it with that possibility. And I think you can teach people to be good people as an omnipotent God without being having to have the sin and suffering and all that stuff. In the end, it's like, I've likened it. It's like, okay, you have two, if the story of Adam and Eve is true, okay, which it's complete, utter mythology, but if the story of Adam and Eve were true, you basically have God leaving like a bottle of bleach in the presence of two, that's open, in the presence of two morally 2-year-old people. Okay. When I look at that story now, it's like, how very irresponsible of God, okay, to leave, to leave something as dangerous as that in the presence of people who really haven't been trained to be moral people. So yeah, it's the commanded us, made us sick and commanded us to be well. Even if I take the free will thing, God creates a possibility of something very awful. He's responsible for that option. Okay, no matter how much theists like to shake and dance, particularly Christians, he's still responsible for that option. So, well, true. um, as a former minister, I can tell you that I got really good at hiding my sins because um, unless you're the kind of personality and have the kind of congregation where you can pull off, I'm human like the rest of you and still be in charge, you can't be in charge and have weakness. A lot of churches just require you as a pastor to be this super dude, super Christian. And if you're not that, then you're not fit to be a pastor. So, but it's the forgiveness cycle that allows you to continue to come up with new ways to forgive yourself in private. So, um, well, yeah, but that's not what people are taught when they're children. When people ask me how religion continues, it's people are born into it. It's no accident that you're probably the religion of your parents. Okay, it's like it gets taught from generation to generation, and people say, "Oh, this is true." Okay, this story is true. I've actually started doing that with a few people because I'll tell them the Bible claims to be written by God. I said, well, the Havamal claims to be written to be the words of the wise one Odin. Why don't you believe that? So um, there's several like scriptures that claim to be divinely inspired. Why are you dismissing them? So, well, yeah, this is why apologists have to go into the realm of silly. Okay, because you know Apologia released his video about William Lane Craig has slipped even lower. Okay, his low bar criteria is laying on the floor at this point. Um, but yeah, when you really consider it, it comes down to experientialism. Like I've experienced this event, I've interpreted it as Jesus saving me, and so therefore I have to maintain all the other silly stories and doctrines and stuff like that. And so when you get people that are that way in their thinking. You see, the problem with Low Bar Bill is he has this emotional connection to his face that he won't give up. This event, this emotional event was so significant to him that it affects his apologetics. It's why so much presuppositional apologetics exists, is because it's the emotional connection to faith. I mean, I've had these presuppers will come here and they'll ask me questions, and it just shows they don't have any intellectual reason to believe anymore. Okay, but they believe because emotions. So, so yeah, it's a knowledge of good and evil. The sin thing has always been questionable because God, the serpent, nobody mentions sin. It's just like you will surely die, and then they don't die. So, um, yes, even lower bar. Yeah, it does need a backhoe. Um, I thought that Pelagia did a good job, and of him and Mr. Deity did a good job of analyzing how his apologetics, which is he starts with all the arguments for the existence of God, and then he starts moving into more vague areas until finally he gets to sharing his experience with Jesus, and then he expects his experience with Jesus to basically um, be the end of the discussion. Like his experience with Christ is what matters. Okay, this witness of the Holy Spirit that he's saved is all that matters, and that's his apologetical form. Like he's given up completely, like trying to come up with a truly rational reason, for any of this. So it's for those of us that have come out of this, we see this all too easily, like that everything was about our experience. Like for me, I had too much invested, too many experiences, too much emotional connection to the church. And it's why it took me so long to get out. Okay, that's why I'm very patient with people who are still theists, because the emotional connections is the issue. Rationally, I can dismiss Christianity fairly easily. Like, people will go, "Oh, the Gospels tell us about Jesus. The Gospels are hearsay. They would never stand up in a court of law. Period. Full stop." Okay, the first 5 books of the Bible never happened. We can demonstrably prove that they did not happen. Okay, um, so if you intellectually take those two facts alone, you dismiss a lot of the faith of Christianity in a quick poof. It's the feelings that keep you there, the wanting to see your loved ones that have died, like me with my father, the sunk cost. I've put too much time into this, particularly for me. I was a pastor and I'd invested my career in it. And for pastors, it's really, really hard because there's a lot of them. I believe that probably a good chunk of pastors don't really believe, but they're so deep into it that they can't get out. Okay, this is their career. This is how they've made their living, and they don't even know what to do at that point. So, um, he still lists it as one of his arguments. This is how he starts out. He'll start out with the Kalam. He'll start out with like all the standard arguments for the existence of God. He tends to end with like design and morality, but then he shifts. It's a big leap he makes, because then he'll shift from those arguments about God to this. The real proof, though, is your personal experience, like this witness of the Holy Spirit thing. But the real evidence is for you personally, and it's a personal apologetic that happens to work with some people, because they want that personal experience with God. That's what they're looking for. He gives it to them. Okay, and then he gives them some kind of rational reasons to kind of lower their defenses, lower their skepticism, but he doesn't. His apologetical form is just really bad. Okay, it's he's, I don't know, he's kind of dumped. Since the low bar original comment, I haven't really seen him come up with anything new or try or anything. He's just like, he is totally invested now in this personal experience is the truth. If there's a 1 in a million chance that this is true, then it's worth it. And it's like, no, no. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if faith is rational, Lisa. I don't think it is. I think faith is very emotional. That's why I don't consider it a virtue. Um, Virtues are something that I can demonstrably show help people, help a person live their life, and help others around them. So, yes, Fred. This is that. So, hey, Alex. Yeah. So, um, yes, I think he does the arguments for the existence of God to make it look like it's meaningful. Like, but he even in that interview with Alex, he says, for evangelistic purposes, all the arguments for God and all the stuff that he does, that's why he does that for evangelistic purposes. But for him personally, he says, I don't care about all that. I have this inner witness of the Spirit, and that's how I know I'm saved and how I know I'm going to heaven. And it's like, well, so much for argumentation then. So, yeah, not just the buttons, people. I mean, I got a goal here, a financial goal every time. I haven't hit anything this week. I've got nothing. I look to my super chats and there is zero. Nobody's grown any super chats this week. So I've come to call that excusage. Uh, there's a lot of excuses. It's I remember when Paulogia did his video when somebody was attacking his video on the Gospels and who wrote them, and it's funny because everybody like admits, oh yeah, he's laid it out there what the situation is, But then the excuses flowed about why the information doesn't exist, why the historical evidence doesn't exist. I mean, I even saw, oh gosh, Frank Turek came out with something about how the reason no evidence exists in Egypt for the children of Israel is it's a massive cover up by the Egyptian government. And it's like, yeah. Yeah, so it has become, the cosmic skeptic. He's a weird one, because he interviews a lot of people. He's a lot like me in the sense that he'll talk to all these people. He claims he's not really an atheist. He's more of an agnostic, but I'd probably corner him on that and say, okay, which God do you have a belief in? Do you have any active belief in any God? No. Okay, well then you're an atheist. Get over it. I get so tired of that argument. Just get over the term. Okay. Just get over it. Let's see. I don't know, it's kind of cold here in Michigan. I did see a very massive boat go by on me on the highway. Somebody spent a lot of money to lake fish. So well, thank you, Cranky. First one of the week. Beer money. Thank you, sir. So that helps. Makes me feel better. Got engaged doing a very religious thing. Going to be tough not to get caught up in religious debates with him. Maybe I will lie and say I'm a Christian. Well, how can I help you? It's like I said, what do you want? Do you want a good relationship with your family, or do you want to be right? Okay. I have chosen with a lot of my family members to just keep religion off the topic. I'm not going to, I'll be happy to engage the discussion honestly. And you could still pose, Alex, here's the thing. You could still pose as a Christian and then ask annoying questions about how that proof for God doesn't work for you and you're looking for something else because that particular proof doesn't work for you, and you can tell people why. Okay. Like, I had to do it. I mean, it depends on how much you want to smooth things over with your family. Okay. How much you value your relationships with them. I mean, these are your in-laws, so you can tell them to go F themselves if you really want to, So there's that. But yeah. So all right. Thank you, Wolf. Appreciate you. I hear the faint sound of the dog in the background. Is not a problem, but I love. Oh, the dog is my neighbor's. Now that the snow is off the ground, they feel more emboldened to send their dogs outside, and so they bark. I live in a small town, so it's pretty peaceful most of the time. Today was a little rough because normally I get up in bed, take a shower, and then I get ready for streaming, but the water was out today because they're fixing something in the apartment building, so it should be on now, but I just didn't have time. So, is Australian beer more expensive? Oh, wait. It is now. Oh, I find this so hilarious. Hey, Earl. Good to see you. And thank you for your help last stream with Triple E. Yeah, he needed some help. Yes, that a couple days ago about standing up for himself. And it's one of those deconversion issues that I still struggle with, is standing up for myself when people are being dicks. So, because Christianity taught me to be so passive, and I could see that in him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to tell these people to shut the hell up. So, you don't have to submit yourself to that. So, thank you, Ronald. Appreciate you. Yes. Tomorrow it's supposed to hit 50s again, and it's supposed to stay that way for the rest of April. So I'm actually thinking about spring cleaning this weekend and getting the shit out of my house. So Oh my goodness. If you're from Sydney, everything's more expensive. Okay. Well, see, the thing is, Alex, it's like you don't have to mention that you don't believe. Okay. You can discuss religion very calmly with people and just ask annoying questions. Um, I've done this for years with my family. Like they'll mention something. I used to believe that, but it doesn't work for me anymore, and I'm looking for something better. And this is the reason why it doesn't work. Okay, and you can do that. So there's that. Our benevolent dictator deserves the best North Carolina beer. Wow. We're having a beer competition here. So who I've got? I've got the Cranky Elder God beer, um, the Australian beer, and now North Carolina beer. So wow. But thank you all. Um, yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, it's just, oh, but yeah. Well, if I drink all this beer, I'm going to be smashed. So, uh, yeah, of course they don't. Like I don't like a lot of the call-in shows because I think it just leads to more hostility. But theists don't like it when they have to deal with an atheist that actually knows what they're talking about. I see it here all the time when people come here and assume I don't know something, and then they find out I know. So there's that. So thanks. Thank you, Lisa. Beers around the globe. Holy cow. Oh, are you paying to see me smashed? Is that what you want? You want to see me drunk on air? Oh my god. I'm gonna have to use something stronger than beer. Little story about attempted inebriation with me. I come from a long line of alcoholics, so I'm very cautious about that in the first place. But I think genetically, like I know I have a resistance to alcohol's effects in the first place because I went when my oldest son got married. It was like open bar, and he paid. There was a lot of alcohol paid for, and so he was very generous, and his family, his fiance, his now wife, was very generous, and so there was alcohol everywhere, and I must have had 7, 8, 9 very hard liquor drinks and walked a straight line back to my hotel room. So I don't know, might take a bit. I don't know how much alcohol I'd have to drink, so I still don't. Um, So it's like I have this high resistance to alcohol, and then on top of it, I'm a big man, so it takes more. When you're 6'4" and 275, it's hard to get drunk. Um, I've been to several parties since deconverting, and where the alcohol was flowing pretty good, and yeah, still nothing. Maybe a light buzz, but that was pretty much it. It's kind of like Andre the Giant used to tell the story about how much beer he could drink. He's legendary, and I'm not that good, but yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how much it would take. So, hey, Jeff. Oh man, try beer. There's some good beer out there. I'm very particular about what I drink these days. I want it to be good, so I don't know. Depends on the beer. Yeah, I don't know. I think I passed that too. Very stressful. Um, God, oh yeah, because as a pastor, I did Holy Week. Um, like I would literally take the month before Easter and preach the whole Easter story. Very popular for me to do so. So yeah, it would be stressful this time of year for me. I don't miss it at all. None a bit. I'm going to do a Saturday stream next week for sure, on the 19th, I think, because I can't do it on the 20th, but it would be funny. I don't know, maybe I'll make an exception to that rule and just call in on Sunday, but for work. But my thing is, because Easter falls on 420 this year, and I have a title for the live stream that day, which would be "How high do you have to be to believe in the resurrection?" And I think that'd be a hilarious stream to do on Sunday, but on that Sunday. But yeah, from Palm Sunday, which is this week, until Easter, I'd be very, very busy, and it was stressful as hell. I also had on Fridays, Good Friday, we had in town here a crosswalk where everybody's carrying the cross on the trails and around town to different places. And, people would take turns taking the cross and carrying it. And so there's a lot of stuff that I used to do as a minister that made this week just busy, and I didn't want to do it. So there's that. Is Modelo the best? That says something. Yeah, my grandfather was an alcoholic, like bad, like he could drink an entire case of beer and still walk a straight line, according to my father. So his biological father, his actual father that raised him, he was adopted, but his biological father was quite the alcoholic and tends to run in the family. So you're a cheap date these days? Okay, there you go. Yeah, it really. I have to tell you this, Cranky. There's local beers that'll knock you on your ass. Okay, we have a local brewery here in town, and they have one version of their beer that's pretty strong. So, um, Apple Crown, there you go. Well, yeah, it's like I've never imbibed in getting high myself, but it's like it's so perfect to me to have 420, the day that we celebrate marijuana, and the Resurrection Sunday on the same day. That doesn't happen often, and I want to take advantage of that. So, oh yeah, mountain moonshine. Yes, moonshine's a very interesting topic. I'm like, is it really moonshine if it's not like 200 proof? So, yeah, different churches do. The crosswalk thing was the most interesting thing I ever did for Easter, which was like I could describe that, and how all the churches came together to reinforce the Easter story, basically, or in particular the Good Friday story. So, but we would start like at a church to represent the trial of Jesus in front of the Sanhedrin, and then we would head to the courthouse and we'd stand in front of that, and the courthouse represented his time in front of Pontius Pilate. And then we go to another church where they finally condemned him, and then we'd end at the cemetery in town here, as the empty tomb. So there's a lot of stuff like that happens locally that that's very different. But yeah, different churches do different things. For me, for Easter, it was a guaranteed communion service. It was a guaranteed discussion. Different years, I would play different characters that would tell the gospel story from their perspective. Like one year I did Nicodemus, and the other years I did Pontius Pilate. I did the Roman centurion one, which was fun because I got to dress up in Roman armor, which is a blast, by the way. But I would tell the story from their perspective, and discovered how much I had to make up. because there isn't a lot there. So there just isn't a lot there. Uh, well, yeah, I get some of you are there, 365, but yeah, I think 420 was originally the protest that started the ball rolling in the United States. I'd have to look up the history of it, but I think it got started. So, well, they can't arrest us all, so we're all going to sit on our porch and smoke. So let's see the cops arrest us all for smoking marijuana, kind of thing. So, so I don't know. Maybe the idea of getting nailed to a cross excites them. So, yes, there's actually many historical accounts of alcohol being very much present at revival meetings like that, tent revival meetings. And there's a lot of discussion of whether or not a lot of the enthusiasm was alcohol or the Holy Spirit. So, I don't have the armor anymore. I had access through that through a church, so I don't have access to it anymore. But I had the armor I had was like a full set, like metal too, not cheap knockoff either. And to find something big enough for me, that was a real trip. But man, holy crap! Uh, just walking around in Roman armor, and now you begin to you start to understand why people had respect for that, because technically there's a lot of things you can try to do to somebody in armor and it won't hurt them at all. Like if you punch a Roman soldier in the chest, you're going to hurt your knuckles. So, me too. Now, Nicodemus is always the leader of the rats. Thank you for the Nim reference. It's my favorite book. Great story, Earl. My granddaughter turned 11 this year, my oldest, back in January, and when I was 11, I was reading the Rats of Nim in school, and it became my favorite book of that time period for me. And so this year, when she turned 11 and she's in fifth grade, I gave her a copy of that book, and wrote in it that this was my favorite book when I was 11. Maybe it will be yours too. And it was a real good moment between me and my granddaughter. So, I don't know, maybe a Centurion helmet for the hat reveal. That's a possibility. There's a lot of goofy hats too. See, and I may head that route for hat reveals. But yeah, it might be. Helmets are on the docket. I may get creative with this, and we can see where we can go. I found a really interesting hat that has bunny ears. So for the Rabyd atheist, we can do that. So. He's not a rat. He's a mouse, a very big mouse. But yeah, it's a great moment, Earl. She actually took time during her birthday party after she got it to come up to me and say thank you, Papa. She's always wanted somebody to like write in the front of a book dedicating it to her. She's never had that before, and it was a good move. So. Oh no, I found some really good ones with rabbit ears. There's many goofy ones with rabbit ears. I was so surprised. So, but yes, but just a reminder that Radigan is a mouse. He says so. He's a very big mouse, but he's a mouse. He's not a rat, according to Radigan. Oh, but yeah. Oh, good days, good times. Uh, um, this was my problem too, in an extent, but I'm kind of like, Freddie Mercury used to have this problem when he was, alive and with Queen. He was a very shy guy in life. Like he had to, but when he hit the stage, he was something else in him came out. I won't say he was a different person, but I had that too. Like I was very shy most of the time and very quiet, back of the room, autistic, don't want to be bothered, don't understand life, don't understand all of you. But I experienced this the first time in second grade when I was in a play and I had to play an animal character that had several lines. And, I was wearing a mask, so nobody knew who I was per se. And I hammed it up. Like, it's like it. I am absolutely dying to see Earl, your Mormon one. I want to see the pearl onions with binkies. I want to see this. I would love to see the daddy Mormon and the three mama Mormons and the 25 pearl onions with binkies. Absolutely dying for that one. I think it's going to be hilarious. And Fangs is going to be like, what the literal hell am I here for? So, but yeah, that's the one I'm living for right now. But we can start going to the various Christian ones, but the Mormon one, I definitely want to see that one. So I think that'll be hilarious. Oh man, man, I'm just sick. I've never wanted to see rabbits eating vegetables more in my entire life. So, yes. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think Easter pageants are a little weirder than Christian ones, though, Alex. Or Christmas ones. Christmas ones, I think, are more accepted, and there's a lot of parts you don't have to say diddly squat. You just have to, like the wise men and the shepherds and all that crap. So there's that. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Oh man, I don't know. For me, drama became one of the few times that I could be expressive, but I can absolutely see why some kids just hated it. Reading parts in front of people when you're shy, boy, can I see that. And Easter plays are worse, I think, because there's so many lines in them, and the kids have to play so many roles. I think the worst one, though, of all the drama productions I ever saw in church was the Walls of Jericho one, where the kids, you know, they sing that little song, and then the walls fall down, and uh, so and then we just pantomime going through the city and killing all the other kids, and everybody thinks that's cool with the little kids. So yeah, but yeah, to me, Easter is worse in some respects because we're talking about the death and crucifixion of a human being, and we normalize that like that's okay. So, but yeah, I wouldn't feel guilty about it. You may have to work on that, but I wouldn't feel guilty about it at all. So, all these vegetables are multiplying like rabbits. Um, oh man, because there's layers. Yeah, I think we picked the onion for Mormons because there's layers, especially was it the magic underwear layer. So yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I'm gonna be see because this is the thing. Every time Easter comes in April now, John, I think to myself, "Holy shit, it's a second April Fool's Day." So But yeah, I do feel you so much. Yeah, I mean, find your niche. Okay, I think the church tries to force kids down a certain avenue. I worry about that with some of my grandkids that are still in church. It's like you got to do this, you got to do that. Oh, I got it. I got multiple ways. See, I think the whole month of April is April Fool's Day for a lot of religious people. I mean, the Pope is going to wear funnier hats than usual, and bishops and cardinals are going to wear funnier hats than usual. So that's why atheism hasn't taken off, because we have no hat. That's why I do the hat reveals, because we need a hat. Some say it should be the fedora. I guess we'll see. So, I can always use a thumbnail, or just we'll see. What you may end up doing, Earl, is do a good art piece and then figure out a way to do the emoji later. Maybe just a single onion for Mormons, and we'll have to figure out a way. But I'd go wild on the initial artwork, because I would love to show that to people during a live stream. So, but just do the artwork, and then we'll figure out the emoji if we want to do that later. So, yes, you got to do the binky. Oh, yeah. I remember when I was in ministry class. Oh gosh, I think it was in seminary. It was the seminary people that pointed this out to me, whereas I thought it was okay when I was just a preacher. But they're like, when you ask people to stand up in church and tell where they're from, who they are and where they're from, you're like asking them to face like three of the most common fears that a human being has, like telling something about yourself, public speaking, and being the center of attention. These are like things that a lot of people run away from, but churches get to have people do this stuff all the time. I think that's why some parents think it's good for their kids to get them to be more social, but not necessarily. Yeah, you do stuff that you don't like, but I don't think people should. You blame the chat. We can blame the chat. Yeah, I think I've got enough that I'll do a Saturday stream. I want to do Saturday streams anyway. I'm going to probably change how I do things. Um, it may involve dropping the Monday stream, but I'm moving more to the vein of I don't want ads on my streams. And so what I'm rather going to do is just put up a basic goal for the stream, and we'll do a hat reveal if we get enough goals. So, and I may change it that way. I just want this to be worth my time to an extent. Because I like helping people, but I also, I could be using this time to do something else. And, I am an expert in certain things, I guess. If you want to talk Bible theology, I can talk all day about that and go around in circles all day too. It's fun. I mean, we had this alcohol discussion earlier in the stream, and yeah, my entire theology pub series of stories on my old blog, All Things Rabyd, is all likening theology to alcohol. So that's how I felt about it at the time as a Christian. So, um, I think you might have a point, because it makes you feel uncomfortable, and then you do it and everybody claps, so it's like you get okay with facing your basic human fears. Not a bad thing per se. It's how it's used in church. It's used to build community, like for visitors and things like that. You're letting them know they're important enough to we now know all who you are. So yes, I am doing quite a few streams, and I think I want to cut it down to 3 a week, so I can focus more on videos. Oh, by the way, I don't know if Captive Desk is here, but he did a great video today about Thomas Paine, and the claim that Thomas Paine gave his heart to Jesus at the end, and pointed out that it's a pretty big lie. And he even gives all the quotes by people who were at Thomas Paine's deathbed. And the claim that he was an atheist is a little bit overblown too. He was a deist. I think behind the scenes, I don't think he believed in shit, but that's my theory. But he did a good video today. It's a short one. It's like 5 minutes. So head over to Captive and watch that video when you get the time. So okay, we're not. Oh, wow! You got $100 for 3 hours. That's not bad pay, I guess. I would have demanded more money for that. 3 hours in a bunny costume. Yeah, that's a $300 job. Thanks. $100 an hour. Thanks. Yeah, you're at the wrong bar. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I would have definitely asked for more money as an adult for that. They picked at you as a teenager for a reason, so they could get off cheap. I have not done that particular passage. I've thought about it. I haven't gotten to the Psalms and when God kills, but that's a different series entirely, though, and because that's like the psalmists when they celebrate the death of their enemies, and David does that a lot. Like David, supposed David, the Psalms of David, he definitely celebrates the annihilation of his enemies. So yeah, he's a pretty diehard deist. Which to me, deism back then, if they had known what we had known, there'd be more than half of them that would have been a flipping atheist. They just use deism is like it's a God that doesn't care. Okay, so it doesn't do you a lot of good. It's on a practical level. You have to like go like God's not coming to help me. So, but yeah, he had that aspect to him. All right, all right, all right. Hey, Michael, good to see you. I would say the argument from experience still applies and the problems with it. One, I had tons of Christian experiences, quote unquote, but all a Christian experience is an emotional experience in a Christian context. Um, I know that for a fact. So I would tell Alex that he needs to rethink that because tons of people have experiences. It doesn't prove shit about what they believe. Okay. You'll have Muslims that will tell them that their experience proves their faith. Hindus the same, Buddhists the same. Every religion under the sun has experiences that quote unquote prove their faith. And I'm all it means is getting emotional in a religious context. So yeah, yeah, I get it. Back in the day, that was a lot of money, but still, 3 hours in a bunny suit with a bunch of kids. Yeah, you're paying me a lot more money. That's a $250 job even back then. I'm sorry, they got off cheap. No, should have been able to, back then. You should have been able to the money you made for that experience. You should have been able to like do a car payment at least. So, yeah. Oh gosh, I spoke in tongues. I got slain in the spirit a couple times. I can tell you what that is. That's them ginning up the emotion to the point that it overloads your nervous system. That's a well documented psychological thing. Pentecostal services, you know, you can find yourself crying, you can find yourself doing all kinds of things because the whole thing is emotion from start to finish, and it hits that endorphin rush. And the more deeper you go into the emotional experience, you know, all that kind of thing. You know, I had words of wisdom and knowledge where I thought God was telling me certain things. Um, you can delude yourself. Visions, I saw visions of angels on a couple occasions. It really is, when you study it psychologically, this is why these type of experiences are common across religions, because human psychology can be tricked. Okay, when you get people into an emotional state, you can pretty much, if you prime the whole idea of you're going to have spiritual experiences, and then you have emotional music, you get people up there praying for each other, getting really emotional about things, and there's an expectation of a high degree of emotion, you can manipulate people into thinking they're experiencing anything. That's why it's like, the argument from experience that, my dismissal of it is every religion has these experiences and they all claim that it proves their faith. But also, if to you, well, that experience proves my faith for me, does it? And I'm not trying to gaslight people here, but does it? Because you're kind of saying that your interpretation of your experience is infallible. Okay, how do you know for sure that that experience came from God? Okay, what's your epistemology on that? Okay, and now I'm pulling you out of the experience and into reason. And when you hit your experiences rationally, well, it kind of goes away. Yes, everybody's near death experiences differ, same kind of thing. Um, yeah, it just doesn't prove that anything is right. Okay, it's a hard argument to come over with the individual because the individual believes it so sincerely, but it's not a good argument for faith overall because um, there's just it's everybody has it. So yeah, you definitely have now. Oh hell no, that's $1,000 job. Thanks. I'll do it for $1,000. Thanks. You'd still be a Catholic if napping was a spiritual experience. Yeah, there you go. Oh, dude, you got to go to a Pentecostal service and stand in the corner, or go to the internet. I'm sure it will not fail you. Just look up Pentecostal services, and you will see all kinds of shit. And you have to think in terms of, okay, that person that just got prayed for and knocked over and is crying down their face, what is the experience they're actually experiencing? But they're going to connect it to God. So yeah, same kind of experience. It really is. Curse him until he goes away. All right, well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, if you want a prayer to be answered and you have a big group praying for it, sure. Um, I don't think it proves anything. It doesn't prove anything about prayer. It may prove a lot about the fact that groups of people like to experience similar things. Like, I can tell you that from a Pentecostal point of view, everything is contrived to get you into an emotional state. And then the preacher can introduce just about anything if he gets you into that emotional state. Okay, that's true of any personal experience too. If you put yourself in the right emotional state, you can experience a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Okay, your experience cannot validate truth. Okay, for that you need a lot more. Um, yeah, Acquire the Fire was big with a lot of people. Oh gosh, for the men, it was Promise Keepers. There was a lot of people asked about Promise Keepers. I went to like two of the events, one of them in the Silver Dome when it was still standing. Um, And yeah, it's very much an experiential thing. So it's kind of when you have a group of people that are all bound together by common cause, and then you create an atmosphere of expectation, you can get any kind of spiritual experiences you want. Um, that's why, like, when politicians do rallies, and I don't care what party they are, and they're just trying to gin up the emotion, same thing. Okay, you can have spiritual experiences at political rallies. You can have spiritual experiences at rock concerts, and kind of pointed that out. Um, and often with the same outcome results. Like, there's a reason why, like, churches are loaded with sexual experiences afterwards because everybody's on an emotional high. I remember that happening at youth camp so much. Like literally after these services is when they would catch most of the couples doing it. Okay. And it's like they went to the service, they were at the altar, they had this emotional experience, and then they went to share it with their girlfriend, boyfriend. The next thing they know, they're doing other things they're not supposed to. So, but yeah, it's like this whole emotional ginning up. You can create a lot of atmosphere, a lot of stuff. Yeah, it explains a lot. Actually, it really does. Okay, you can once you're in that emotional state, and then you get with somebody that you have like lust for it minimal, it can lead to a lot of that stuff. I think that's a big part of the problem. Okay, why that problem exists. No, I don't think having emotions with songs is weird. It's just you got to realize what's going on there. Okay, this is not a time to make. When I'm having emotional experiences listening to songs, and I do cry listening to some songs still to this day, which is why I don't listen to them very often. It's I recognize though that that's not a time to make life decisions. Okay, it's just not a good time to make life decisions. So there isn't much difference from a techniques point of view. Both of them use the same emotional ginning techniques. I learned that in poli sci class. So when we started talking about political campaigns and how to help a politician run political campaign, yep, politics is an interesting way to make a living, but love and light, yeah, you can do that. Yes, it does explain a lot, Earl. Okay, I we there were two problems at youth camp every year, which was one of them was catching kids banging each other. Okay, some sort of sexual thing. It was always present, and the other one was illicit substances like alcohol and drugs were always camp in youth camp too, and they would confiscate stuff like that all the time. Um, so and it's because of the emotional atmosphere. If you train people to think emotion is the thing, you're going to get emotional responses. So, yes, similar. Uh, when I got slain in the spirit, okay, sort of called slain in the spirit. It was a very emotional song. I was singing it, and now I kind of know that like my nervous system has a certain capacity before it shuts down. I kind of experienced that Monday, where my hypersensitivity and all the things going on in my life get to a certain point that it stresses it to the point where I start to experience blackouts. I haven't actually blacked out. I've always caught myself ahead of time, but me and my therapist have gone around and around with that one, trying to get a good control. But that can happen. Everybody, I think, has an emotional capacitor, so to speak, of how much emotion you can take, and then you have to find a way to shut off or shut down because you can't take it after a certain point. So, and religions do that all the time. They push that capacity to the limit. So, and then once you're in that state of being blacked out or not in the best mental state, they can implant anything. That's, my standard order of service was music. Uh, then my last year's the offering was actually last, which to me was a better emotional place to put it because, you've gone through the whole service, but you do the emotional thing, you do testimonies, you do different experiences, testimonies, and then you go into the preaching, and then you have an altar call service where you say, okay, we got this expectation, we got this emotion, let's use it to have something happen. So, yeah. Yeah, very. The thing is, Ronald, once we figured out that like these religious experiences, marijuana, alcohol, sex all stimulate the same area of the brain, then you start to realize why these things cross, like why at youth camps they have these great spiritual services and the kids are banging each other too. So, you should think about it. Because if all that stuff, like I just said, stimulates the same area of the brain, it would be very neurologically easy to cross over from one to the other. So going from a religious experience to banging your girlfriend is not that big of a leap when you consider that. Okay. It's like, it's not it's like why some people do all at the same time because it just gives them a better endorphin rush. But there's a reason why highly religiously experiential religions tend to also have a high teenage pregnancy rate. I'll bet I could figure that out if I really wanted to do the research. That might actually be a PhD right there somewhere, and I'm probably imagining somebody's done it already. You can, Ronald. I would contact Recovering from Religion. I think their link is still in my description. So, but if you have the capability to do remote, because that's what I do with my therapist. She's down in Detroit area, and I'm up here in rural Michigan, and we just talk via her. She has a video conferencing program that we use to talk to each other. So don't think you're limited by geography, okay, when getting a therapist, because if you have the ability to remote connect, it can be worth its weight in gold to do it that way. It's still the same. You're talking to each other. The only thing I miss is there have definitely been times where we've had breakthroughs where I really wanted to give my therapist a hug and say thank you, but I have never met her in person. So, but yeah, it's if you need therapy, find a way to get it, bro. Yeah. So there's ways to do it without necessarily having somebody there. So this is why cults have sexual abuse. It's not too far of a leap to move from religious experience to sex. Sorry. I think there's a reason why you look at religion throughout history, sexual ritual and emotional experience are linked. Like it's all the same type of experience when you break it down neurologically. So yeah. So it's something that I have thought about a lot because I'm like, why in the hell we have these great religious revivals and at the same time, and I don't, here's the thing, Earl, I think the adults were doing it too. It's just the adults are more sophisticated and have figured out ways to keep it covered up. Like I often wondered about the camp counselors because the camp counselors at the camp I went to, they had the same dorm. It was just one side of the dorm was men and the other side was women. But there were a couple of occasions where camp counselors were told to go home because of the same thing. So it's like, um, but I often wonder why there was such, you'd have these great quote unquote spiritual experiences with a holy God and then go out and do unholy acts. But yeah, it's um I have thought about this long and hard, Earl, because there's a reason why sexual infidelity issues exist in the same place as religious ones. It's not just the like purity culture repressing a religious thought. It's also religious experience and sex stimulate the same area of the brain. So it's like, it's not too big of a leap to go from one to the other. So, yes, Recovering for Religion is a great organization. So if you need help, there's the link, and there's also the link in my description. So if you really feel you need therapy, I can encourage you. They will, if you can request, I don't want a believer as a therapist, I want an atheist therapist, they will honor that request. So I know my therapist is an atheist, so we don't have the problem of trying to bring in any religious spiritual woo stuff so, at all, which can very much be present. That's one of the things you have to depends on the church. But think about it. A lot of religious cults of the past, sex and religious experience were linked. Like they were part of the same thing. There were sexual rituals were definitely a part of a lot of old religions. So, so there's that. So, it happened all the time, especially at revivals and like church camp and all that stuff. Oh my God. I lost track of the number of couples that they sent home. There had to be at least 2 every night, and the camp counselors probably 1 every week. Because I would work at camp as a pastor from time to time, and same. So you just got to be a Pentecostal, go have some super duper religious experiences, and then go. This is why I think like pastors and staff usually have a sexual problem, because they have these very high emotional religious services. Things go really well, and the next thing you know, you're banging your secretary. So yeah, they don't fuck around when it comes to making sure their therapists are vetted. Because I think they had a problem with some theists trying to sneak in. So. Yeah. Well, I heard that story so many times, though, Earl. Like I remember one time we were at a minister's meeting and we were talking about this guy who was having great success as a church. 2 weeks later, he got caught banging his secretary. So, so it's like, yeah. See, some religions try to take the fun out of it, but here's the thing, Anne-Marie, because of the viewpoint that Catholics have on sex, I think it still promotes the idea of sneaking around because that's the endorphin rush. No, I don't. Not me. But I used to hear stories all the time, like these successful ministers having revivals in their churches as a Pentecostal. Next thing you know, they're being disciplined for sexual misconduct. So, but not me. I never banged my secretary. No. So my body count's still 1. I know people don't believe that, but it's true. Now, Earl, when I say I have problems, I would have problems having sex with a stranger. That's absolutely true. They'd have to be a good friend. So I don't have the capacity to have that much touch and not form an emotional bond with somebody. So it would it would definitely cause me problems psychologically. I'd get too attached to that person. So yeah, it's you know I mean, I guess I would have to study, like Catholics use real wine and so do Jews. I wonder what the alcoholism rate is among priests and rabbis. I really do. Because if you're using alcohol as part of your ritual and you make that religious emotional connection with the alcohol and it all stimulates the same area of the brain, I could see where that would be a problem. So why pagan religions make a lot of more sense to me, because they'll have alcohol and sex during the religions, some of them, and it makes perfect sense to me that it's also religious. So it's only the Abrahamic religions that try to chop this thing apart. So, oh, the solutions we haven't found yet. Yes. Yeah, I don't doubt that that happens. I'm see, this is the thing about having been on the other side and being a pastor. I saw so many things that I just, I won't say I know where literal bodies are buried, but there's secrets that I know about people that I wish I had never learned in the first place. So, eh, eh. Yeah, but I think that's normal for a lot of us. Like we do the thing, and then after a while it's like, why am I doing the thing? It doesn't. I think at a certain point it just doesn't stimulate your brain enough, and you're just like, yeah, it's a lot of diminishing returns. So, uh, yeah, maybe. I mean, because you Europeans make this case about alcoholism, don't you? Because like the French have wine at the table for younger children, diluted or whatever, and I'm sure you Germans beer is more like coffee. So I think it's what culturally you can get used to a certain thing, and maybe it's not as big an issue. I think the problem with Americans is we've made so many of these sins forbidden that it's it's much more of a everybody rushes to do it kind of thing. So oh, and I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not. Oh, I remember when the professor who was a Jew came to school and said he had gotten stopped by the cops because he was drunk from the ceremonial wine at their service. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put religion into things, you might as well get drunk and have sex at the same time. It's what made paganism so attractive to me at the time. So there's that. Oh man, yeah, they cut out a lot. And here's the funny part, though, Alex. Everybody's doing it behind closed doors. Um, I lost track of the number of confessions I got in my office while I was a Pentecostal preacher to all kinds of shit. I mean, we didn't do confessionals like the Catholics did, but trust me, those fundamentalist churches, yeah, there's a lot of secret sinning because it's repressed and it's normal human behavior and they repress it. And so people are doing all kinds of things behind closed doors. Trust me, if you see, I remember this is a story I heard, but like this one pastor was wondering why these two couples would always stay so late at church, and then he would go home and say, "Hey, can one of you?" Because one of them was a deacon, "Can you lock up the door when you leave?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And it was a wife swapping thing. It was like they were waiting for everybody to leave so they could trade partners. So it's like it's much more common than you think. Okay, even in fundy churches, the sinning is going on. It's just people are much more secretive about it, more careful about it, but not. But of course, that doesn't always work. So yeah, you have to be 21 to drink alcohol in the United States, and so it has this forbidden fruit aspect to it. My son talked about that with me once. My middle child, he had a problem. He says, "Dad, I don't hardly drink anymore." I says, "It was fun when I was 18 to 21." When it was illegal. He said, "But once I turned 21 and I could walk into a store, get my license, and get whatever I wanted," he's like, it just stopped being as fun. So it's like it just wasn't as fun. Yeah. Yeah, I'm scared about that too, Earl. It's why as much as I joked about the alcohol earlier, I'm going to pass because there is a lot of alcoholism in my family, and I think that might be the reason. Um, because the more talk to other people about my biological grandfather, I I really feel I don't know if he was autistic, but he was definitely neurodivergent in some way because he didn't have the same senses of things. Like I think I've told this story before. Like he's got 18 kids by 7 different women now. I think is my count. So it's like he was a traveling man. I'll just put it that way. He was a traveling salesman, and you know he used that to his advantage. But he was also an alcoholic, and and then when I look at the autism thing and the rate of abuse, it's like, yeah, I don't want to get down that. I've flirted with that a couple of times, and I just, I socially drink, and I usually put a limit on it, but I really don't know what it's like to be drunk though either, because I've really never drank that much. So, and a lot of that is my caution about it. I have other problems, so. Yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up about it either, Earl. It's just we are what we are, and we got to deal with it and figure it out. I'm not going to preach the you're a sinner and going to hell mentality anymore, even if it's secular. I'm not going to sit there and say you're an evil person because you have this. I'm not going to do that anymore. So, but yeah, I wouldn't beat myself up about it either. Yeah. Yep. Yep. There was a time that there were beer vending machines in break rooms. Did anybody remember those times? Like, like some break rooms had beer vending in them. Like you could go up and get some. Yeah, it's true. I'm very interested to see what the new poll numbers say when the next serious poll on religion comes out in the United States. I'm very interested in seeing what happens there. So, no nicotine, yeah, heart attacks can do that. Gosh, yeah, damn. See, I've never smoked, so the nicotine thing never got me. So my dad was a heavy smoker, and then he quit cold turkey. And boy, the next month was a bear for all of us in the house. So yeah, see, that's the thing. It's the parental guidance thing with alcohol that you guys have. We don't have that here. If you do parental guidance stuff with alcohol in your home, you will get arrested. You will be contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and you might have trouble with social services for doing so. In some states, not everyone, but uh, uh, I can see that. I I don't know. Do they have a church? Oh, you didn't mean tobacco. Okay, there you go. I've never done the nicotine thing in any form. So yes, vaping. I don't understand, Earl, the opposition to vaping because it's like a massive upgrade from smoking regular stuff. But I've never understood that. So, but a lot of people around here against vaping and fighting against vaping, and I'm like, I'd rather have them vaping than smoking directly. But I've never understood it. Well, folks, I am out of time. In fact, I'm way over what I normally do. So I am going to have to say goodbye. Make sure you hit the like button. I'll see you all Saturday. I think I got enough super chats that I'll do a Saturday stream, although we're way away from a hat reveal. So I'll have to push that on Saturday. Well, I'll see what I can do there. But yeah, I'm going to have to call it a good one. Good discussion, lots of good stuff. No theists, maybe the 20-minute time limit for subs before you can chat is the mark. So They're not going to cross that line. Though me and Cranky were worried earlier because I had like 5 new subs today. I'm like, I wonder if they're doing it for the stream. But yes. But as Earl reminds us, lay your hands on the almighty like button. The like button is very consensual. Some say easy, so make sure you just hit the like button before you leave. And thank you, one and all. Thanks to everybody who super chatted today. I appreciate it so very, very much. I don't know if I'll use it for beer money, but it's definitely well appreciated. But thank you, everyone, one and all. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate the streams that we have. I know it sounds sad, but this is kind of my social interaction for the week. That's why I do it. But thanks, everybody. I appreciate all of you. As always, live your best life. You only get one go around, and then it's over. So you want to take all your time, money, and opportunities and spend them on yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith. That's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you next time.